Dear fellow chosen ones, whoever told you that your life here on earth was supposed to be easy, that it's going to be easy, have misled you. Because I'm here to tell you that as a fellow chosen one, when you are chosen by God, your life will not be a walk in the park. It will not be a piece of cake. You will experience so many trials and tribulations, spiritual warfare, so many battles, so many obstacles. And I'm here to tell you this with all love that this is expected when you're chosen. Being chosen one isn't something that you should take for granted. It is something that is not just hard, but it is something that is so rewarding. When God chooses you to walk this path, when I tell you that you will reap an abundance of joy, of happiness, of peace, of eternal favor with our Father in heaven, man, it's this misconception where people think that when you are a true believer, when you are truly devoted to God, that your main purpose in this world is to live comfortably. But we know that this world is overrun by Satan. We can infer this from the Old Testament. When God was bragging on Job to Satan, God asked him, Satan, where have you been? And Satan replied, from roaming the earth, walking to and from it. So initially, we know that in Genesis, when God cursed the ground after sin was brought into the world, we've read many times about how God first, with Noah, flooded the earth and rid it because there was so much evil and so much violence, and this wasn't initially what God intended for this earth to be. So as we progress later down the line, the violence never stopped. And God sent his faithful prophets to go prophesy to these cities and get them to basically turn from their ways. And in some instances, it worked, but in other instances, people forgot and they fell back into the same sin. Kind of like how we are in today's society. Sin is imminent. Because we live in a sinful world, we're accustomed to sinful practices by nature. And although the goal isn't to sin, it's just our nature. But as a true believer, as a chosen one, we were not designed to be comfortable. So there may be times where you're really going through it and you're really struggling and the battles just keep coming. Take that as a blessing. Never look at it as like, oh man, I'm going through all these trials and tribulations. Like, am I doing something to displease God? You're walking in your faith. Many people claim to have faith, but the ones who are actually in the mud and walking in their faith know that in order for you to walk in your faith, you have to be tested. You can say all day, I have faith, I have faith. But if you're never going through things, how do you know you really have faith? It's easier to claim to have something when you're not oppressed by the same thing you claim to have. But when you actively know and you're walking in your faith, then you should know that it's going to accustomly come with a whole whirlwind of problems, of stress, of obstacles. But that's when walking in your faith ties into consulting with God, walking in your spirit, asking Jesus to lean on him, asking him to just come and give you strength to endure. So a lot of the times we like to pray to God to ask for favors, to ask God, can you make this problem go away? Can you make this reprimand this? And can you punish those who are evil to us? And God is like, no. Like, even though there's so much evil in the world, these are all my children. God doesn't pick and choose, but God is a very stern God, and he won't allow you to continually disrespect him. He won't allow you to continually hurt him. So as a chosen one living in this world, we as believers, as followers of Christ, essentially are designed to be disciples. We are designed to live our life just as Christ lived his life. Christ came into the world telling and letting everyone know that, hey, I'm here to do my Father's work, and my Father's work. And that included all the miracles and all the things that Jesus did while he was on earth. We can look at Jesus as a clear and true representation of how we should live our lives, which is why Jesus tells us to take up our cross daily, to deny ourselves, that you have to die to yourself in order to be found. And that also leads me to Matthew chapter 7, verse 14. And it says, "But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. Only a few will find it." When you really put in the work and you really devote yourself to God, it will open your eyes. God will open your spirit. God will bless you with so much wisdom and discernment to see what it is that we are actually in this world for. As chosen ones, you were essentially put in this world to live your life in a way to bless others by using your knowledge of his word to be in order to be able to uplift and encourage others, to shed light on God's grace, God's love. Your life is a living testimony, just as Jesus' life was a living testimony of pure devotion to our God. So essentially, your life isn't your life to live. It isn't, oh, I want to be happy, I want to live my life and do things that's pleasing for me, but in the same sense saying that I'm living for God. It's pick one. I feel like a lot of people in the world are masked and they have their guard up and they feel like, hey, God gave me this opportunity to be in this world to live the life and I'm going to live it the way I want to live it. But if you know you're chosen and you know that you are a man of God or a woman of God, then you know what your job is. And even if you don't know what your job is, I'm here to tell you as a fellow sister what your job is. Your job is to use your life as a living sacrifice. It is to devote your time, effort, and energy into continuing God's work, just as Paul did. When Paul said in Acts chapter 20, verse 24, "However, I consider my life worth nothing to me. My only aim is to finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me, the task of testifying the good news of God's grace." We know how loyal and devoted Paul was to God, how much God favored Paul. We know this from the fact of how Paul lived his life. And we can infer this, and there's so much speculation on how Paul was, he wasn't the most pleasant, and Paul had a harsh way of saying things. Paul lived in reality. And he told the people like it was. And God expects the same thing from us. Again, people in the world have this misconception of thinking that chosen people are supposed to be angels and they're supposed to be, so nice. And no, chosen ones stand on business and they fight for God and they stand in the front lines when it comes to God. So their wants, their desires, their life means nothing. You spend your life on earth and you think, oh, I got to please my mom, I got to please my dad, I got to take care of this, I got to take care of that. Your mom and your dad are the people who are fighting with you for God. Just as Jesus told his disciples, Mary and Joseph isn't my father and my brother, but these people who are walking with me and doing God's work is my brother, my sister, my father, my mother, etc. So I feel like we shouldn't be worrying about these things that don't matter. Your life should be a living testimony. It should be a fight every single day to do the Lord's work. When I tell you and you fulfill it and you start to change your viewpoint and you start looking at these obstacles and these circumstances and these situations as draining you as blessings, and you're constantly being put through the ringer, then you know you're on the right path. Because essentially, we live in a world that detests God. You can't mention Jesus' name. You can't mention God. Is not promoted on media. And then we live in a world where gospel artists who claim to be these men and women of God extort God for money. They forget the true purpose of putting this music out here, putting this influence out in the world to draw people closer to God. But whereas though they want the income, they want the money, they want the monetary support that comes from it. So they lose their vision when it comes to God. And honestly, they're going to serve a harsher punishment when it comes to Judgment Day because they're in charge of influencing so many people. So God doesn't take it lightly. He doesn't take your job lightly. Just as Moses, and Moses wasn't able to be granted to see the promised land, all because he didn't listen. Moses was in a high position to be able to lead, and yes, he led these Israelites through the Egypt, and he led them from slavery and captivity, and yes, he put the 10 commandments on the tablets, but he did not listen to God. Because he was highly esteemed, because he was in this very important role, when God told him to speak to that rock and let the water flow through it, he decided to use his staff to hit it, because in that moment he had doubt. He didn't believe that if I truly spoke to this rock, then water would come out for them to drink. And that is why he didn't inherit to be able to see the promised land. So I tell you, my brothers and sisters, we live in a world that defiles God. We live in a world that goes against God. Why should we want to be comfortable in this world? As a believer, it should pain you to have to live in this world. The idea or the objective isn't comfortability living here. It's to be able to influence, it's to be able to touch as many people as you possibly can. God tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves. That means regardless of prejudice, regardless of judgment, we should love each other as ourselves. And I love myself enough to know that I want to return to my God. So I'm going to do my best to be able to reach out to as many people as I possibly can in order to finish God's work. That is the goal. That is the meaning of life. So again, whenever you're afflicted, whenever you're going through trials and tribulations, those are blessings. Those are testaments of your faith. Those are obstacles to let you know that despite everything that I'm going through, the reward I will gain will be in favor from our God in heaven. To let him know that this man or this woman really has faith. They really believe that I am with them. And 10 times out of 10, God isn't going to let you battle this alone. He's right there standing in the front lines with you. He's sending his angels to protect you. Anyone who fights for God will never not be protected. That doesn't mean we won't be accustomed to sickness and sadness and depression and anxiety and loneliness. Those are feelings. Feelings come and go. Happiness is a feeling. It comes and goes. But inner peace is a gift, and it is something that God gifts us with. And we have to earn that. It's not something that's just given to everybody. But when you earn it, then it's with you for life. So let your life be a true representation of our Father in heaven. Make him proud. Touch as many people's lives as you possibly can, chosen ones, and know that you're not in this fight alone. We can do this. I love you guys. That's the end of this video, and I will see you in another one. Bye. Hey guys, if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe.